tools and all of that. So you will make use of that for your training or for your learning. So let's look at how the course is organized. The course is organized or structured into 9 parts. The first and the 9th are not really examinable contents. So is the, second to the 8th that are examinable contents. All right, so we're going to go through them one after the other. So the first part is the introduction, which is what we are doing. The second lesson looks at the summary of everything, the big picture, where we are going to look at the domain, project lifecycle, and governance. All right. The third lesson looks at stakeholders. Every project has got stakeholders. So we need to understand the stakeholder concepts, the vision of the project, and the vision of the stakeholders as far as the project is concerned. And of course, if you have stakeholders and on your project, you need to keep them involved. And the involvement is about communication. So we will look at the communication requirements of stakeholders to get them appropriately involved in the project, to have their continued support for the project. Then we have lesson 4, team. Projects are done with team, people. So we need to look at team dynamics, forming the team, the skills, the qualities, the leadership skills, and characteristics that are required to be able to keep a team together. And when it comes to project stakeholders, team requirement, expectations may not align all the time, at least at their onset. So there will be conflicts. So you need to be able to understand conflict management. And then knowledge transfer, right? We will talk about that aspect in lesson 4. When we come to lesson 5, we begin the core planning aspect of the project, and it begins with the scope. So we need to understand scope planning, scope management. When we are planning scope, which is about the work that needs to be done to complete the project, we are not just completing projects, we are creating value through our work. So the scope planning should have as an objective value creation. So we need to understand value, what constitutes value from the various stakeholders, all right? And then resources are required for projects. Finance, we also plan finance and look at risk in lesson 5. When we come to lesson 6, we will integrate our plan, right? So we have to put all the bits and pieces of the various project components together to have an integrated plan, which will be used to manage the project. And that integrated plan will include a schedule, quality, procurement, in addition to the scope and the rest. So we will look at that aspect for lesson 6. And then lesson 7, which is about execution. Okay, we are going to look at the execution practices, what needs to be done during the execution phase. Okay, quality management, continuous improvement, monitoring, impediment, change control, contract management, contract change control, and all of that. We will look at all of that in lesson 7. And then lesson 8, which is almost about wrapping up with the project. We need to continuously scan the business environment to understand how the dynamics of the business environment is either positively or negatively impacting our projects. And then also look at improvements that can be made to our processes to enhance our project delivery, or improvements that are required to position the organization to efficiently manage subsequent projects. And then we'll close our projects. So this is pretty much about the core contents of this training. Lesson 9 will be about getting ready for the test, which is not examinable, but it is the resources or the guide you need, pretty much of which has been given in the introductory aspects. Next, projects can be done using a number of approaches. The 3 main approaches to managing projects are predictive, adaptive, and hybrid. So we are going to look at these three main approaches. I have a project. We need to execute the project. We need to manage the project. What approach are we using? Are we using predictive, adaptive, or hybrid? It will depend on a number of factors we are going to look at as we proceed. Now, these are the icons that represent these approaches. So we may be talking about a concept. That concept may be predictive. So you will see this icon. So once you see this icon next to any concept or any particular slide, then it means that what we are discussing is a predictive approach. What we are
Steven,
discussing, yes.
are you projecting what you are discussing, or we are supposed to go through the document as you present?
No. So just when you say document, how do you mean? The one on your learners platform?
Yeah. Yes.
No, so
Because you
you follow
mentioned these are
through.
the icons. So I was thinking maybe you were projecting something, but what I only see is your background, which is the project arena. So when you said these are the icons now,
Oh, so you don't have the main slides?
no, you are not projecting your slide.
No, it's being shared. Jones,
No,
I said Jones. Ernest, you also don't have
yeah,
it?
no, your screen is visible. I can see they are predictive, adaptive, and hybrid. Course
Yeah.
icons. So it might be coming from your end, Jones.
Because I'm not seeing the screen.
Oh,
Are
okay.
you using your phone or your laptop?
Laptop.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Let me see. Yeah, from my end here, it also indicates that everything is fine from my
Let me
end.
exit and join this and you see if
Maybe if you could reshare your screen, I help you.
Okay, okay.
I can see it now.
Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't know you didn't have it.
That's right.
Right. So, like I began, projects are done using one of these three approaches: predictive, adaptive, hybrid approach. The approach we use will depend on a number of factors we are going to discuss as we go along. So because we are training to understand the various ways projects can be managed, which is a requirement, all right, to know the various ways projects can be managed so that you can handle any project in any environment, okay, under any condition. We are going to learn all the approaches, all right, and we are learning them all together. So when we are discussing an approach or a principle or a methodology, and it is a predictive methodology, you will see this icon. If it is adaptive, you will see this icon. If it is hybrid, you will see this icon. So this is predictive, this is adaptive, and when we combine predictive and adaptive, we have hybrid. That is what you see here. So get used to the course icons. Again, you will see in your materials these other icons. This means it is an important concept. You need to take notes. Question. This is an interactive sessions. So the moment you see this, it means you are going to have an interaction. You are going to have a discussion. Means that this is something that you need to apply your expert judgment. Right? You are a project manager, you are a professional, you are exposed to a lot of knowledge, a lot of information. So there are situations that is not clear cut. You need to look at the situation, the data, the information available, coupled with your own insights, and then make a judgment. This means that take notes. These are tools and techniques. Tools. So project managers, we apply tools and techniques in most of the things we do. So you are going to see some of the tools and techniques. And of course, this is definition. Now, there is what we call course glossary. The course glossary is a PDF file you have in your learners platform. All right, so in addition to the resources that you have, the course glossary is part of it. It contains terminologies, words, phrases that helps to enrich your project management vocabulary. All right, so you want to spend some time on that. I think it's about 750 such words. We will be using most of them in the course of the training, and we will be explaining them. So at your convenience, you can take the course glossary and then go through them and then get familiar with the terms so that when you are speaking, you can use the terms to differentiate yourself from the others who are not or have not had this kind of experience. Now, let's look at the PMP certification. The PMP certification is a globally recognized certification for project managers. If you're a project manager, the highest you can go, the gold standard is PMP. PMP is a certificate awarded by Project Management Institute in the USA. It has gone through a period of refinement and iteration into its current state. If you have PMP, it demonstrates your ability to lead, or it's kind of give credence, okay? Or it shows every employer that you have the ability to lead projects without being tied to any specific industry or project. It also means that you have the skills to manage people, processes, and business priorities of projects. It proves expertise in using any of the approaches we've talked about: predictive, adaptive, and hybrid. If you are PMP, it means that you can use any of these approach, which is what we call ways of working. If you're a project manager, there are no single particular way of managing a project. There are several ways project can be managed, and that you understand, you have the expertise in applying your skills in managing any project, okay, using any of the approaches. If you have PMP, it is recognized in over 140 countries in the world. If you have PMP, 140 countries in the world. So wherever you go, your PMP is recognized, all right? And it will really boost your career prospects when you travel. I have a testimony. I mean, I have experienced it. I have 3 master's degrees. When I went to Canada, the certificate that, really gave me an advantage was not my 3 master's degree in Ghana or from Ghana. It was the PMP. That was what gave me a job. PMP, the Microsoft project, the Primavera, and those tools, because I could use them, it was easy for me to get a job. When I traveled to the US, the same experience. I went to France, the same experience. So, I mean, it is something that when we talk about, some people would think that, oh, because you want us to come and sign up. It's not like that. If you can have it, have it. You don't know where you will be tomorrow and when it will matter. All right. So that is about the certification. You know how US people can really market and make their things look big. That is what they've done for the PMP. Now let's look at the exam because the ultimate goal is to have the PMP certificate. So once we go through the training, the end game is to have the certification. So let's look at the exam structure. On the day, you answer 180 questions. This is a one-time exam. It's not like other certifications where you write part 1, part 2, part 3. No. This one is a one-off exam. You write it once on a single day. 180 questions. You will have a total of 240 minutes. That is something around 4 hours. Now, these 180 questions, 10 out of these 180 questions, we call it pretext or non-scored questions. If you get them correct, they won't count. It will not be counted as part of the questions against which you are being scored. All right, so that is the structure. This is how it looks like. You bear in mind, you are going to 180 for 4 hours roughly. The ones you'll be scored on is 170 questions. This is how the scoring is.
Sorry, Stephen.
Yes.
So on that 10 on score answers or tests, if you get them wrong, what happens?
So if you get them wrong, it wouldn't matter as well. So they use that one, they call it pretext, to see what people think or to test the general pulse of the majority of the people, all right, to see what kind of refinements and all of that so that they can improve on those questions and then make them main or, scoring questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So this is the scoring. No penalty for wrong answers. If you get a question wrong, you won't be penalized. So it is not a +1 - 1 kind of concept. So because of that, don't leave any question unanswered. If you don't know it and you've search, you don't know, just pick a question or, pick an answer. All right, don't leave any question unanswered. Now, we talked about the fact that you are going to have 240 minutes. That's approximately 4 hours or thereabout. The 180 questions will be taken in 3 tranches. So you have 60 questions, you take a break, you come and take the next 60, you take a break, you come and take the next 60. That was the order, that was the structure, all right, until 9 July 2026. So from 9 July 2026, the structure has changed slightly. I'm not sure whether it's going to continue like that or not, but we are still engaging those who are writing to find out how it is. So now what it is that there is what we call some case study. They will give you a passage. You will read it and answer about 10 questions on those passage. And what we notice is that those who wrote the exam online, once you read the passage or the case study and you answer the 10 questions, then they give you the first 10-minute break. So you've answered 10 questions. You are left with, say, 170 questions. The 170 questions are now going to be divided by 2. So 80 is 1, so 85 apiece. So that means that you have to then, after your 10-minute break, answer 85 questions. And then take your next 10-minute break and come and write the next 85 questions. That is how those who wrote it right after July 9th. This is the structure they had. So we are still monitoring to see if it will continue or they will change it. Now, if you finish any of these and you submit, when you take your break and you come back, you cannot go back to it. So you finish your case study, you answer your 10 questions, the proctor gives you a 10-minute break, you go, you come back, you cannot come to this. You finish this, you take your 10-minute break, you go, you come, you cannot come back to this. And each of these is timed. So it's either you finish and submit or you are timed out. All right, so you have to note that. And these are things we'll do with you when we come to the practice, so that it's not only about knowing the thing, it's about managing your time. Because after all, yes.
So if I get you right, assuming I answer case study questions, I answer the 10 questions and then I click on submit. Automatically, I'm given a 10-minute break, or I can request for a 10-minute break, or I can
No,
move on with other questions.
Automatically, the system will give you that break.
Okay. So it's not a request, it's something that
So
comes.
the break is actually optional. All right. The break is actually optional. If you want to skip it, you can. But we advise that at least you take some break, because sitting down for 4 hours, reading long statements, worded questions, it can be overwhelming. All right. So we advise that you take the break, but you will be prompted for the first 10-minute break. If you want to skip the break, you have the opportunity to skip the break and then continue. But that means when you skip the break, in the course of the next segment, you cannot have the break until you finish it. I don't know if you get it.
Yes, I get that.
Right. So that's about this. So you need to know the concept, and you need to be able to manage your time, because after all, project management is about scope, time or schedule, and budget. Right? So that's about the 10 minutes break. And then the final bit is, once you submit a section, you can't go back. All right? So you finish a session, you submit, you can't go back. Now, let's look at the exam domain. When we say exam domain, I mean, it's about the structure of project management. For every project, you need people to execute that project. So we have a people domain, okay, a people aspect of this lesson, or a people aspect of project management. For every project professionals will use or follow a series of processes, or what we call project management activities. That is what we call process. This is about the technical aspects of managing a project. And of course, projects are initiated by entities, organizations. We need to understand the factors surrounding the project. Again, we need to understand the project context, the need driving the project. We need to understand the forces, the influences that may be exerted on the project from the project environment, which could be within the organization or even within the jurisdiction and so on. And then again, project managers are supposed to be able to understand the business aspects of their project. That is, again, the project context. If you don't know why the project is being done, then you may not be able to take the right decisions to create the right results to fulfill the need or the basis, the reason that necessitated the project. So organizations initiate projects, understand the need or the context of the project. That constitutes 33% of the exam questions. When organizations initiate projects, we use people. No, people constitute 33% rather. Then the business environment constitutes 26%. And then project managers will use some tools, techniques, processes, some activities that constitute 41%. So when your organization initiates project or when a project is initiated, people will be required to do it. Project managers will follow a series of processes. So for you to pass the exam, you are going to be tested on your ability to manage people, lead people, your emotional intelligence. We are going to test your ability to understand the context of projects, the business environment. We are going to test you on your technical in-depth as to what it takes to lead a team within an organization to fulfill the requirements of a project. When you put all of this together, it's 100%. And the question we get all the time is, what score will give you that pass mark? There is no definite score for us to say that, oh, you have to score 70% or 80%. PMI uses psychometric analysis or approach or technique. I'll send you a write-up on psychometric if you don't know it yet. So at any given point in time, they are looking at your performance relative to others. They take into account the level of difficulty associated with the questions, okay, and a lot of dynamics to grade the student. So it's possible that you may get 60%, but you pass. Someone may get 70% and may not pass. All right. So you need to understand that, and then you in your preparation. Now, at the end of the day, your grading, you will see your performance in all these domains, and it is graded as targets, okay? Targets, above targets, below targets, need improvements. Above targets means that your knowledge is above the average knowledge of the exam takers. Target means your knowledge is at par with the average exam takers. Below target, it means your knowledge in this domain, your experience in this domain is below the knowledge level of the exam takers. Needs improvements means that you need a lot of improvements. All right, so this is the grading. I'll show you example of some of our past students at some point. Know the exam structure before the Thursday. What is important is the timing, the format, and then the domains. We will take you through all of that. Now let's look at the question types. The question types. The questions are going to be multiple choice. And in the course of this training, we are going to give you what we call assessments. And I encourage all of you to do the assessments. When you do it, we will share the correct answers with explanations. So that also become an avenue for learning because you will know the correct answer and then you will know the explanation. And that also helps in the learning process. So multiple choice where you have to select one correct answer. There are multiple choices with enhanced graphics, all right? There are multiple choices that require you to select more than one correct answer. So in that situation, you'll be told, select 2, select 3. All right, so you'll be told. Then we have case study or scenario. That's what I told you. You'll be given a case study, passage, or comprehension. You read it, and then you answer about 10 questions, or 15 or 20, depending. And then we have matching. You'll be given some words, and then you'll be given a passage, and then you fill those words with them. Or you'll be given a statement, and then you ask to be match a particular word or phrase to that statement. So you click on it, you drag it to place it there. You click on it, you drag it to place it there. That's what we call matching. Then you have point and click. So you may be given a question and the number of possible answers, and then those possible answers, you put your mouse on any of them and then you click on it. Once you click on it, then that is your pick. All right, so that's point and click. Then we have matching, we have drop down, okay, or pull down list. You read a question and then you drop down or you pull down from a list and then you pick the correct answers. So the 180 questions will be a mixture of these formats. And we are going to take you through all of these to be conversant with it before the day. Let's look at a few scenario-based questions. Change request, risk response, scheduling challenges. So change request. The question is, a key stakeholder requests a change after the project baseline has been approved. What should the project manager do next? Your project plan has been baselined. Baseline means that it has been approved. Once your plan is baselined, changes to that plan can only be done with a formal request. That formal request begins with filling a change request form. So if there is a need for any changes from a key stakeholder, after your plan has been baselined, then what the project manager is supposed to do is to make sure that there is a change request. And the change request will be taken through what we call a change control process. During a project execution, a previously identified risk occurs, causing a 2 weeks delay. What should the project manager do next? Again, risk response, right? We will come to some of these concepts as we go along. Okay, during project execution, if the risk was identified, then that risk has a risk response. So we have to go to the risk register, identify the risk response developed for that identified risk. So we record in our risk register as the risk having occurred, and then we implement the risk response. And then the fallout will be communicated subsequently. This is what we call known or known risk. The risk response can be called, for example, contingency response or whatever. We will look at that. Now, in this new exam, you are going to take AI concepts. In this day and age, there's been a talk of AI, artificial intelligence. AI will not replace project managers. All right? Probably one of the few professions that will not be impacted extensively is project manager roles. Because every project is different, and project is a human-centered, profession. AI will not engage your stakeholders for you. AI will not, do most of the things for you. But there are aspects of your work which is repetitive, you can use AI for. Probably 20, 30% of that work. AI can do for you. The remaining 60 to 70%, you have to do it yourself. When you meet AI questions or when you get AI questions in the exam, the approach to answering those questions is not to dismiss the AI. And it is not to wholly or blindly accept whatever the AI gives you. The approach should be you validating or reviewing what the AI has presented to be sure that it fits within the best practices or the concepts. So you should always have an inquisitorial mindset about suggestions that AI presents. That is the mindset with which you should approach any AI questions you meet. Don't dismiss it, don't accept it blindly, but review it, okay, to make sure that it is good. If it's not good, tailor it, adjust it. That is the approach with which you answer AI questions on the exam. You are going to have a number of them, and we will take you through a number of them. For these kinds of questions, normally it ends with, what should the project manager do next? What should the project manager do first? What should the project manager do? Always have a mindset of managing a multi-million-dollar project, so then you can put things in a proper perspective. If you have a mindset of managing a one-bedroom house project, then you get a lot of things wrong. So the mindset should always be that, hey, I'm the project manager managing a $10 billion, $10 million, $5 million project. What is the right thing to do in this situation? And it will help you to make the right choice. And this is the end of our introduction. Any question? Is it clear? Yes, Ernest.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. So with the test structure, we are expected to take it after the 6 weeks. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm asking this because if a student is able to advance through the material, is there a way the person can take it ahead of that 6 weeks?
If you're able to go through the materials and then you do the mock and all of that, yes, normally you have to finish first. But if for a good reason you want to go ahead of the process, it depends on how ready you are, and you will know that from your test score, your mock assessment score. If the score is good, we will allow you.
Okay.
Any other? So we have our next guest, Fafa. So when you are joining, please join with your name so that we can identify you accordingly. All right? Fafa, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, please.
Right. So I think you missed the introductory part. So if you don't mind, a brief introduction, your name, where you work, your profession, and the motivation for this training.
Okay. Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is a long one, Michael Willington Fafa Colley. Can still call me Fafa. So actually, I'm a teacher, and I feel I should add some other knowledge to be able to do other things for myself. Because I have lots of friends who are into other areas and they have learned this. And so they encouraged me that, well, with the way you are, you can do this one. So that is why I joined.
Okay. Right. You're welcome. So we have
Thank you.
Jones and then Ernest. If you get a recording, I'm sure you'll fill in the potholes, the areas that the discussions that were had before you joined. I'm sure you catch up when you get the
Okay.
recording. So we will dovetail into lesson 2, the big picture.
Steve,
This lesson, yes, sir.
um, I want to find out. So for each session, there
Mhm.
is going to be 4 to 7, as you said. How many
Yes.
lessons will we be having within that period?
How many?
Lessons will we be taking through within that period?
So the lessons come in different sizes in terms of content. So when you take lesson 1 and 2 and 3, they are not much. So today we can finish lesson 1 and 2 and part of lesson 3. Tomorrow we will finish lesson 3 and begin with lesson 4. Yes. And then next week we'll finish with lesson 4 and start with lesson 5. So it is not going to be like one particular lesson for a particular week. It is structured in such a way that we should spend 35 hours for this training. All right. So we've structured it in that way, okay, based on the time available for this training.
I was asking because at least so that as students we can prepare ahead before coming to class, just to be able to
Okay.
guide
Yes.
reading.
So I will share the training schedule with you on the WhatsApp platform. We have a training schedule, what we will do each week.
Okay. Thank you.
So this lesson is like an overview of the entire course we are going to do, an overview of the entire course. So don't be surprised that you will see some of the things we are doing now in other lessons. So if you understand them at this stage, then when you get to the other lessons and they pop up, it will just be a revision for you, or it will be a reinforcement, all right, to enhance your understanding. We are going to look at the exam domain, the 3 exam domains: people, process, business environment. Try to understand what a project is, the life cycle and the development approach. And then we will introduce governance. What are the 3 exam domains we discussed? Anyone? Does anyone remember the 3 exam domains? The areas will be tested, or the areas you will have to understand to successfully manage a project.
You will have to understand the area of people, the
People,
business environment, and the technical side, which is, I think, the resources,
the process,
the process, sorry. Yeah.
right? So these are the 3 areas: people, process, business environment. You need people If there are no people, you can't manage any project because any project requires skilled people. You need to understand the technical aspects of managing project, predictive, adaptive, hybrid. When you take adaptive, we are talking iterative, incremental, agile. When we are talking agile, we are talking Scrum, Kanban, and all these other processes. And then business environment, the factors surrounding the project that needs to be understood for the project to be valuable to the business. So what is a project? What is a project? I believe we've all handled projects in our various organizations, in our homes. Jones, what do you consider a project? When we say a project, what is it for you?
For me, it's a project is just an activity meant to either bring value to a business or it's either to serve your clients. That is what a project is.
Okay. Ernest.
Okay, just to continue from where Jones, in my view, a project is some activity, like he said, that is a temporary activity to deliver a value or a product within
Okay.
a specified time. Yep.
Right. So a project is a temporary initiative. Why, when we say temporary, what does that mean? What makes it temporary? Fafa,
Yeah,
what makes a project temporary?
it is temporal because it has a lifespan.
And when you say lifespan, how do you mean?
I mean, before the project is done, you should know when you are started and when you should end it.
Right. So temporal means that it has a definite start and definite end. If you are handling something you call a project and it doesn't have a definite start and a definite end, you probably are not handling a project. You're probably working on operations. Temporary does not necessarily mean short. You can have a 10-year-long project, a 5-year-long project, 3-year-long project, 2 years, 1 year, and so on. In a unique context, it means that that project will create results that are unique, that perhaps have not been created before, or that what is required to execute that project is entirely unique from what any other project has in the past required. So the balance is that, or the mantra is that no two projects are exactly the same. When you take two similar projects, you can't say they are exactly the same. The stakeholders involved, the risk associated with it, the budget requirement, the duration of the project, the skills required, or even the need necessitating the project. The project context will not be the same. Projects are undertaken to serve many different purposes. At the end of the day, the project should create value. It must benefit the stakeholders or the organizations within the project. And you must know how each of the stakeholders define value. So what does value mean to Jones? What does value means to Ernest? What does value means to, say, Fafa? And you realize that for one project, the stakeholders involved have different expectations. And that is one of the work you are going to do, okay, to ensure that you align the expectations around the boundaries of the project scope or around the boundaries of the project constraints. So the question is, the project you are running right now, what value is it expected to bring to the organization? What value are the various stakeholders perceiving from this project? Now, based on what we looked at or what we've just said about a project, which of these three will you say is a project and why? A homework assignment, downloading a playlist, and figuring out a new delivery route. Which of these three is a project and why? Jones.
I think the third one is a project because
Why?
the first two seems repetitive and can be done over time. But figuring out a new delivery route cannot be the same because if the routes are different, it means that the approaches will also definitely be different. That is my thinking.
Okay. Any other view? Ernest.
Homework, assignment, downloading playlist, figuring out a new route. One, by definition of the project, if I'm given an assignment, it shows it happen within a time bound and it must deliver some results. And again, downloading a playlist, you can only do it once. So I'll go for the three. And I'll
You
just
go for all the three.
Yes.
So how about if you have to choose only one?
Then I will side with Jones on the route figuring out because it's a unique thing that has not happened. But the other ones can be done repetitively, like he said.
Okay, how about you, Fafa?
Yeah, initially I thought the three could stand for that, but if I look at a homework assignment, you are given a homework and you're supposed to submit it at a particular time. But here we don't know if it's homework. People could start at whatever time they have to. It is not a specific time to start. But we know that at school or whoever gives the homework want to take it at this time. So I'll go for the first one.
You go for the first one.
Yes.
Okay. So let's look at project temporal endeavor. Are all of them temporal? Unique context. Anytime a homework is given, is it unique? Anytime downloading a playlist, is the approach to downloading or approach to doing a homework unique? Is it like something new that has never existed or that will use a different approach that is not repetitive? And then value. What value is derived from these processes or from these what do you call it, three projects, if we could call them. So that is the context with which we have to look at this. Value, unique context, beyond the temporal state. So when you look at that, and if you look at these three under these lenses, then it seems as though, figuring out a new delivery route is more a project compared to the other two. That's if you are going to be very strict and we are going to select one, then this is more, or it fits into the definition, the strict definition of project than the other two. How about project management? Now we know a project. How about project management? You are going to be managing projects. That means that you are going to apply your knowledge, your skills, tools and techniques to a project assigned to you to be able to meet or exceed the value expected from this project by the stakeholders. So project management is the appropriate application. Appropriate is important because there are a lot of things that you are learning or you are going to learn. Not all of them may be applicable to every project that you handle. So you have to be able to determine what knowledge needs to be applied or what skills has to be applied, what tool needs to be applied to this particular project based on the project's characteristics to be able to meet and exceed the intended value expected from this project. And when you are managing a project, it will entail you planning the project, leading, coordinating the work, the people, resources, risk, stakeholders, and everything involved. More importantly, you are going to work to balance the competing constraints on the project. When we talk of constraints, we are talking about limitations. Projects are not blank check. Every project has got constraints. The constraints of time or schedule, the constraints of budget or finances, the constraints of resources, because resources are scarce everywhere. You have a time to finish this project, you have budget for the project, you have resources, and this needs to be balanced to be able to meet and exceed the intended value, which is a function of quality. Quality is the degree to which the project fulfills requirements. And that requirement will be the value the stakeholders expect. And that value or that expectation must be known from the very beginning so that you plan your project to position it to meet this value. And that is when we will say that quality has been achieved. That's when we will say that success has been attained. And this is what project management is supposed to lead to. Let's talk about life cycle and the development approach. Ernest, when we talk of life cycle, what comes to mind? Humans have life cycle. What's the life cycle of the human race?
Okay, in the context of the project management, I think it should be the stages that the project has to go through until completion.
Right. And what do you think are these stages? So we talk of the life cycle, we are talking about the phases the project will pass through from start to completion. So let's look at the phases of the project life cycle. It starts with what we call the aspiration and ideation stage. what is happening at this stage? How is it like at this stage? Aspiration and ideation stage. Jones.
Yes, so this is where an idea is conceived or a desired outcome is conceived. That is what I understand by the aspiration and ideation.
Right. So at this stage, the organization has an idea, and you need to ensure that any proposed project idea is, aligned with the organization's mission. It's an investment, and that investment is supposed to align with the strategic objectives of the organization. So normally, we can say this is a stage where, say, we are conducting feasibility projects, assessments, some kind of appraisals to understand the project better, to advise the organization as to whether it's a better investment or it is something that will really inure to the benefits of the organization. The next stage is what we call the business case. So at the ideation stage, feasibility needs assessment, problem statements, appraisals, and all of that. Then the business analyst or whoever is undertaking this exercise will come to the realization that, okay, we've explored a number of ideas, we've looked at a number of projects that could be invested in, but we feel based on the project, based on the organization's vision, the organization's issues, problems, okay, the opportunities they want to capitalize on and all of that, this particular project will serve the organization better. So what would they do? They'll make a case for that particular project idea. So that's what we call the business case. So a justification for a particular project idea or a particular idea to be invested in or to be initiated and then undertaken. That's a business case. Now, if that business, yes.
If I may ask, so if we should put it in a form of, so my area, will you say the business case is where you are determining whether this project will be profitable or not profitable?
That is the ideation stage.
Is the ideation stage?
Yes. So that is the stage where we conduct what we call feasibility or project appraisals. So we are looking at different projects and then assessing their profitability or viability. Some organizations may embark on a project not because of the profitability index. All right, some organizations may embark on a project which are not profitable but is viable because it has social value, not financial value or not economic value. So profitability or viability are not the same. A project may be viable but not profitable. But if a project is profitable, then it's viable. So we are going to evaluate all of that using appraisal techniques such as internal rate of return, payback period, what we call what is the name? Payback period, and then present value, and all those metrics.
All this is at the stage one or the
All
life
this
cycle
is at
one.
the stage one, yes.
Okay.
So when you use the payback period, the present value and internal rate of return and all of that at this stage, you will know which of the projects, either A or B, is viable or profitable or will serve the organization better. Let's say we chose project B. The consultant will then make a case. Okay? That case is what we call the business case. The consultant is going to make a justification, including the benefits, the profitability index or the viability, all those information in the business case, and present it to the organization or the management of the organization that based on our assessments, our feasibility, our appraisals, project B is more viable. And they reach this conclusion based on these appraisal metrics or techniques, and the data, the information will be there. When the organizations stop hierarchy, review it, and they are satisfied, then the charter is issued. Mind you, stage 1 and 2 happens at the higher levels of the organization. Maybe at the board level, at top management level. At this stage, we don't have a project announced yet at the maybe say managerial or say the operational level. So they may not know, it's at the top level. It is only when the top level agree and accept the business case, then they will outdoor the project. The project outdooring is done with a document called charter. So we will create or we will develop a charter. The charter is an introductory document, a document that introduces a project or outdoors a project and creates a formal record of the project within the organization. It contains high-level information about the project so that the project manager can review that information and then start planning the project with it. So that takes us to the next stage, develop a project plan. In most cases, project managers come into the fray after the charter is created and then made public, and then the project managers will be mentioned. We will look at the charter and its content as we go along. So you are likely to come into contact with the project for the first time through the charter. So you review the charter, and if you have any questions, there are key stakeholders named in the charter. You can engage them to get more information. So you form your team or you have a kickoff meeting to begin planning the project. Once the planning is done, you hold another kickoff meeting to walk all the key stakeholders through the plan, get or secure formal acceptance or approval, then you can start the execution phase of the project. The execution phase is where we really get the deliverables of the project created. And once all the work is done and there's nothing more to do, then we close the project. To end the project. Then the question is, where does monitoring and controlling fall in this? Because we need to monitor and control the project. So where will it be? Ernest.
I think it should be in the stage 5 and 4 area.
So 4 and 5, which is execution, which is planning and execution. Okay. How are you, Jones?
I think the monitoring and control should run through the entire process.
Okay. So it means from 1 all the way.
Yes.
How about you, Fafa?
Yes, I also think that monitoring should start with the project. So I think when the charter has been created, that is where that should be indicated.
Right. So monitoring and controlling will cut across the project because every aspect of the project should be monitored and controlled. And in fact, monitoring and control is not a stage in a project. So we don't have what we call monitoring and controlling stage. No. We have to monitor and control the entire stages or phases of the project. That's very important, very instructive. Let's take a break, 10-minute break. We are back at 5:41. And when we come, we will look at the development approach.
Okay.
So let's look at development approach. This is very important and is critical to the success of our project. There's no single way to manage a project. The approach you adopt will depend on a number of factors. What are some of these factors? Mainly is about whether the project is well defined or not. When we say a project is well defined, it means requirements are known. And requirements are mainly about stakeholders' expectations. A project that can be planned into detail because what is expected is known and how to deliver to expectation is also not in doubt. So such a project, we can plan it into detail and follow the plan day after day to complete the project. How about if the project is not well defined? There are a lot of uncertainties. We have not done such a project before, and so it's more of experimentation. You cannot put all together and say we are going to do it because you need information, you need some clarity to be able to plan a project into detail. If that clarity is missing, then you cannot plan the entire project into detail. You may plan the project in short cycles or in bits and pieces. Then that would be the approach. So if we can plan the entire project up front and then use the plan to execute the project, then we are talking predictive approach. Predictive approach used to be the main and in fact the only approach being used in managing projects many years ago. So it's also called the traditional way of managing a project. It's also called the waterfall approach or plan-driven approach, or if you like, linear approach. If the project is uncertain, requirements are evolving, the scope is evolving, or what needs to be done, we are in a much more customer-centric environment where the stakeholders' expectations are changing every now and then, or what needs to be delivered depends on factors that we don't control. Then it will be a waste of time to spend a lot of time in planning such a project into detail because those factors may not be in our favor, and then our entire plan may not be useful. So plan the project in cycles, and that's what we call adaptive approach. We are adapting to the changing condition, the changing situations to execute the project. You may have a project where one approach is not enough, is not sufficient to manage such a project because you have one project, part of the project is well defined. Okay, a lot is known about that part. Another aspect is not well defined. So then we will have to combine approaches. We have a hybrid situation in our hand. So we are combining adaptive and predictive approach, hybrid. Right from the word go, project managers need to know which approach they are using to manage or execute their project. And that will let them know the extent to which they will plan the project, the team skills required, the leadership approach needed, okay, and even when customers can expect or the client can expect to get results. This is what we are going to be looking at extensively under process, the process domain. So predictive approach, this is the sign. We use this approach when we have fixed requirements. Requirements are known, certain. Expectations are known to a high degree of certainty, so that we can plan the project into detail and then execute the project in a linear approach, in a waterfall approach, in a predictive approach, or using a traditional approach. The work is well planned such a way that the details regarding what needs to be done is known to the extent where activities are performed once in this approach. There isn't so much repetition to refine and perfect. No, every work is done once. We will excavate once, we will pour our concrete once, we will lay blocks once, we will plaster once, we will skim the wall once, we will paint once. There is what we call development phase or development life cycle. This is the phase associated with the delivering or the creation of project output. So the question is, at what stage does the project begin producing results that can be considered value or valuable? That stage is what we call development stage or development phase. And it is usually from planning through to execution. The planning will give you a project management plan, which is an output, which is valuable. Execution will give you the deliverables, which could be a product, service, or results, which are valuable. And even sometimes the closing phase will give you the lessons learned, projects, documents, or repository, which can be referred to as historical information in the future, which is also valuable. Development phase. Let's come to adaptive approach. It is not difficult. Just relax. Let's look at this diagram. We use adaptive approach when requirements are unclear. Requirements are stakeholders' expectations or value that is supposed to be delivered, okay, from the project, or even how to proceed or approach this project in terms of the technical know-how required to do the work is unclear. So the scope is unclear. Yes, it is unclear, but we can, determine it in a progressive elaboration manner or in a rolling wave manner. So it will evolve over time. The scope will evolve with time. So we are going to execute the project in bits and pieces. And as we finish with this piece, we have a lot of information to confront the next piece, and then to confront the next, and then before you realize we are done. So it will go in a rolling wave manner. When it comes to adaptive approaches, we use this approach to manage product development projects. It can be food products, banking products, any product development project, or projects that are uncertain. So let's say we want to develop a product, you've been appointed a project manager to manage such products. It's not as simple as combining components and then you have a product. No, you go through iterations. It starts with a product vision. What do we need to accomplish? When do we need to accomplish? What will it take to accomplish that? Based on the vision, we want to determine what the product should entail, the features of the product, the characteristics of the product, the components of the product, That's what we call product backlog. So take your car, think of all the components, think of all the features, the functions, the characteristics. That's what we call the product backlog. Those features are there because the manufacturer anticipated what the car could be used for, or anyone purchasing that car will want to use it for. So then, based on that initial vision, for this car to be able to be used this way, then it must have this component, these features, these functions, backlog. The backlogs were not built at a go. In one instance, it was built one stage at a time. From one stage to the next stage, we are adding backlog. We are adding features. We are adding components. We are conferring on the car characteristics and capabilities. Adding the features one at a time will be done within a time frame. This time frame, we want to call that time frame that it took for a feature to be built into that car. We want to call that time frame iteration or sprint. So if we are going to build the engine is a backlog. We are going to use a particular time period to build the engine. That time period, that fixed time period that we are going to build the engine is called sprint, iteration, or time box. In adaptive approach or in agile approach, the duration or the time period during which any component of the product will be built should be between 1 to 4 weeks. So the sprint length should be between 1 to 4 weeks. Why should it be between 1 to 4 weeks? Because we are building something shrouded with uncertainty. And because of that, we need to have frequent engagement with the customer. We need to be able to take feedback from the customer. All right, so it should be such that it will not take a longer time for the customer to see what has been done or is being done, to give feedback to be used to refine and perfect the work. That's the reason for this. And again, we call it time box, iteration or sprint, because once the team starts building the engine, the customer cannot interfere. The customer has to wait till the team is done, at least assembling the engine, test it, and if the customer feels there is too much noise in the engine, the customer will give feedback. The feedback will be taken. The team will work on the engine to maybe bring the sound down. So this period, whether you choose 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, within this period, no change, no interference will be allowed. The team has to focus and then deliver something for the customer. So because of that, if the team feels what we are going to do is too technical, is too uncertain, we need frequent feedback, then make the time box shorter, maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. Maybe you don't have to build the entire engine, divide it into 3 or 4 parts, finish one part, get a customer to, inspect or review, give you feedback to refine and perfect it. When you finish the first part, move to the other half, do it in that order, so that it doesn't take a longer time for the customer to make a useful intervention. And again, so that the customer doesn't feel it's taking too much time, so he or she will disrespect the time box rule and then interfere whilst work is being done, because he sees the work moving on the right track, on the wrong track. So the decision regarding how long the iteration should be is a function of uncertainty. and the potential need for feedback. You are seeing something you call user stories. The user story came from the backlog. We say backlog are the product features, the characteristics, the functions of the product. You took that that information is based on what the customer wants. The features that characterizes the product is a function of what the customer wants the product to do for him or her. You are building a product for a customer. You have to know what the customer wants to do with the product. You want to know what the customer expects from the product. So you are going to engage. The customer will tell you what they want to do with the product or what they want to do with the end result of the project. They are not technical people, so they cannot tell you the exact feature or the exact function they are expecting. They will tell you what they want in the form of a story. That's what we call user story. Then the technical team will decode the story into a feature or a function that needs to be built into the product or the result for it to perform or satisfy the customer's requirements. So every feature or product feature here is based on customer expectations, told in the form of a story called user story. This development approach you are seeing is in two parts. We have what we call the iterative approach, which is this one. We are going to batch the backlog. We don't work on them one. We will batch them, maybe 2 or 3 or 4. We will select a time period, maybe 2 weeks. The team will work on it, deliver something to the customer. We will test it. The customer will give feedback. We may even sometimes refine the backlog or refine the work that has been done. We will go around in circles until we have something that meets the customer's acceptance criteria. Then we will deliver it. But when we deliver to the customer and we test and we find out that the feature is substandard, it doesn't really add any value, we drop it from the product under development. We drop that feature. Based on what has been produced to the customer may feel that, okay, we arrange our backlog in this order. This is the order in which the work was supposed to be done. We've done with the first one. We're supposed to do the second one, B. But because of this value, let's rearrange it. Instead of B, work on C first, then D before B. We call it backlog prioritization or reprioritization. That is also possible. So the customer will come and reprioritize the back, or even introduce new features, or remove existing features based on what has been delivered.
Please, I have a question.
Sure.
Now, if monitoring is going on throughout the product development, how could it end that a product will be tested and it will be seen that it has a substandard? It's a substandard product because it has been monitored throughout the stages. So how come that at the time of testing it's realized that it was not well done or something?
So we are now in the development phase, and this is an approach where the project is not well defined. The project is uncertain. And so we are in the process of developing the product using an approach that takes into account uncertainty. All right. So okay. It is not as if we are done with the whole work and we are now testing. No, we are in the process of completing the work, and we are completing the work one at a time. So we are at a stage where we are working on a particular feature we felt is necessary, we felt is valuable, But after completing that particular feature and testing it, we feel it is not useful. So we will eliminate it from the process. All right. So adaptive process is a self-check process. So this is also a form of monitoring and controlling, where we don't have to finish the entire project before we know that something is not correct.
I get it.
Any question? Jones, Ernest.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yes, it's okay now.
Definition
I
of
think,
done.
hello, Steve.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know, the approach being used is good, but I was thinking it can be practicalized a bit so that we can relate to it. I get the part where you are using a car manufacturing example, but maybe that is where the concept didn't really ring well, because I was following the fact that you said the predictive is well defined. So I can relate a predictive with, say, the baking of bread, because if you mix the dough, it's supposed to come out in this form. So the checks are there for you to be able to now say, okay, the dough didn't come out with this form, so now go back and correct. But the adaptive saying that at each stage, it is the outcome of one stage that will determine the next stage. So it is not well defined. It's evolved with time. But I was trying to see what kind of example can we relate with the adaptive approach, because sometimes the example you cited with the car, you know that these parts in a way are repetitive. So once they are producing this particular part, I don't know whether it is the assembly part or it is the manufacturing of the parts, that's where we are using the adaptive approach, or what. But the example should be able to help us to relate. I'm thinking maybe the example didn't come out right.
Okay. So I'm looking at it from the perspective that maybe we are developing a car for the first time. I can take you to the manufacturing. Let's say we want to develop a new product. I just didn't want to sound too complex. So let's say you work with Nestle, or in your field, what kind of project do you do?
I'm a
What kind
finance
of
person,
project?
so our products are not tangible. So
Okay.
if we want to bring out, it could be maybe a savings product that we want to develop,
Okay.
or it could be an investment product that you want to develop, or it's a loan product that you want to develop. So it's usually
Okay.
more of the intangibles than the tangibles.
Right. So let's say we want to develop a product, a food product. Let's call it product KL. This has never existed on the market, so it's not known in the market. This is food that people will eat, so it must be safe. It must meet all the safety, conditions. So your product development team will conduct research to determine that, okay, more people, there are a lot of conditions now, medical conditions around, because people are eating food that does not include, for example, vitamin C, and then a vitamin, what do you call it? Omega-3 fatty acid, and all of those stuff. That's the initial vision. So product KL, what will be the component or the mineral element or the key component of this product? Let's give that component, let's say it will have VC, it will have KC, it will have MC, MC. It will have OC and then QC. These are the features that will be built into the product AL. This is what has been determined through the engagement of your product development team or your marketing team, okay, engaging customers, doctors or nutritionists and all of that. They came out with different stories about the deficiency in the food we eat on the market and all of that. And so you have determined that this product will have these features. This is what we call backlog: AC, BC, MC, OC, and QC. These are the features, backlog. You have your product development team, technical people with the capacity to execute the product development project. That is a team. Your company, let's say Nestle, there is a consultant there who really knows what Nestle wants to churn out, the quality. So that consultant will represent Nestle on the team to validate the work the team is doing. Let's call that consultant a customer. Now, all is set. We have defined the acceptance criteria each of the components must meet based on FDA requirements. That's called definition of done. Based on the efforts or the amount of time it will take to complete each of these, we will determine that, okay, or based on, say, for example, the level of information we have to complete each of these work, we will say, okay, the team will commit itself to completing the various backlogs within 2 weeks. That's called iteration or sprint. So the first 2 weeks, the team will pick VC. They will determine the specific task that needs to be performed. They will determine the estimate of each of the tasks, and then they will assign responsibilities for each of the team members to perform VC within 2 weeks. That period of 2 weeks, whilst the team work to complete VC, is what we call iteration. Once the team complete VC, they will present a result to the customer. The customer will test it against the definition of done, against FDA standard. If he meets it, approved. This is done. Let's move on to the next one. If it doesn't meet it, feedback is given. Let's leverage the feedback to refine the work. So the team will work on it to improve it until it's done. Once we finish that particular activity and we realize that it's supposed to give us maybe this kind of vitamin or this kind of mineral element, but this particular work activity, the product outcome will not really be any or will not give any nutritional value to humans, then it is not needful to include it in this product. We drop it.
Okay.
Now, after dropping it, then it means that we have to now go and look for a new product or food supplement that will give us the nutritional value of vitamin C. So the customer will then come and reprioritize this, introduce a new feature, and maybe call it AC into this backlog. Because the original VC didn't give us the nutritional value we expected from this product, so we've dropped it. So we will have to reprioritize, introduce a new feature, remove this feature, and then that's what we call backlog reprioritization. The team will pick again, go through the cycle, work on it, deliver value, we will test it. If it is okay, accept. If it's not okay, refine or drop. do this after every 2 weeks, solitary feedback until all the backlogs have been completed to complete the product. Is it clear to this point?
It is.
Yes.
Now, in product development, it gets to a stage where we have a number of backlogs. We have not exhausted incorporating all the backlogs into the product yet, but you realize that the product has taken shape, is beginning to demonstrate some capability, or it's now beginning to show usefulness. It means that we have a minimum viable product. Now we test the product is now demonstrating some nutritional value. Oh, now when you eat, you get vitamin D, you get minerals, you get this level of fatty acid and all of that. We are not yet including all the features yet, but at least the product is taking shape. We call that product, which is yet to be completed, but has some nutritional value, minimum viable product. Now, the goal of any development team using the adaptive approach is to, as quickly as possible, develop a minimum viable product. The earlier it takes you to create a minimum viable product, the better it is, because sometimes, because this is a project being done under uncertainty, and chances are we may spend a lot of time working on features that are not valuable. If you could work on 1 or 2 or 3 features and they all worked and you have MVP, sometimes you even discontinue with the rest. The product is functional. It is valuable. We didn't waste time building all these features into it. So such project or product can be released on a trial basis for people to test it. And then customers will give feedback, and that feedback may be taken on board to even determine what will even make the product more useful than what we had anticipated earlier through the introduction of these other features pending to be built into it. This is how we approach product development. And most companies I work for, this is the cycle we go through every now and then in product development. So you will see that the same product on the market, one is more expensive than the other. Mostly is because of this process. If you end up building more features that are no value or does not add more value, it means that that has become part of the SOP or that has become part of the backlog. Anytime you have to develop or produce that product, you have to include all of those, which may cost you money, may take longer time, longer production time. But if the product development process is efficient, we focus on only the value-driven components, which may be fewer than the other company. So you're able to produce on time, quickly, and less costly. So once you have MVP, another company may release the MVP as version 1. And then they will add one more feature to it, version 2. Another feature to it, version 3. That's why we have iPhone, something Pro, something Pro Max. What are you doing? You are serving a wide range of customers because each of the version will cost more, will have more features. If I don't need the features in iPhone 17 Pro Max, I'll just go for 17 or iPhone 17 Pro. There is no point building everything into one product, make it more expensive, and then few people can afford. Someone can afford it, but may not need those features, so will not buy it. This is the basis of product development. And that's why you see various versions of products with different prices to serve different customer, customers on the market. MVP. Is it clear to this point? I hope this is better.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Now let's look at the hybrid approach. Hybrid is when we have two approaches combined. You have a project. The project is such that one approach will not be too, good for the project. An aspect of the project is something which is clear. You've done it before, or you've done a similar thing before, or is well defined. That aspect can easily be managed using the predictive approach. Then come another phase of the project or another aspect of the project. Very uncertain. Okay, it has not been done before. So you have to use, say, for example, adaptive. When you have such situation, then you are going to mix approaches. You have a hybrid project at hand. Now, there are 4 hybrid models depending on the nature of the project. You have a project where the initial phase or the first part of the project is uncertain, not well defined. So we are going to use the adaptive approach. The second half of the project may be predictive, well defined. So we use predictive approach. Who can give an example of any project that may follow this trajectory? A project where the initial part is uncertain. So you need to use adaptive. But once you cross that initial part, the rest, you can use predictive. You can plan it, scale it up, and then execute it, okay, using predictive approach. Ernest.
My mind is on maybe a software program
Okay.
where, yes, first you don't know it's the first of its kind, but subsequent versions of it, you already know what you need to do, but adding a few components to it.
Okay. How about exploration and mining?
Exploration and mining, yes. So, for instance, a drilling program.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, you probably don't know for the first time, you don't know what is beneath the surface.
Right.
You don't know the challenges that are there, but maybe you have a couple of holes, you'll be able to grant some part of the program. Now the project is advancing to the next stage. You need to do more. At least you will have some base data to guide you in your next phase of development to be able to run the project successfully.
Right.
Yeah.
So can we say that the exploration phase, it will be more of adaptive, and then once we want to then establish the mine proper, we can use predictive approach. Is that possible?
It is.
In fact, okay, this scenario, these are 2 completely different scenarios. We cannot probably use one to predict the other because in those 2 scenarios, there are huge uncertainties there.
Right.
Yeah, one is mining, one is drilling, exploration, one is sampling, and one is extraction.
Right.
So it to be a 2 different scenario.
Right.
Yeah.
Jones.
I think the software example is okay for me let's say you are deploying an ERP in an organization. You notice that for issues of core financial ledger configurations, we usually will use a predictive approach because fixed asset chart of account requirements, they are all standardized. Right? But where reporting, dashboard models and stuff often will come with some sort of adaptive approach because it is based on how the customer wants it and how they will want it to look. So you might not have a one generic item that fits all. It will be based on customer experience and needs. So you may probably have to be adaptive in terms of the reporting side. But in terms of ledgers and stuff, all those things are quite predictive.
Okay. Fafa?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay, Ernest, you can come in before if you want.
Yes. Just on, I think I understand why you brought the mining and the exploration. Yes. You are right. In the exploration, it's more of like you don't know anything. The expectations can be anything. It's an iterative process. You have
Right.
to be in a cycle to be able to deliver a resource. And once you have be able to define the resource, then you can be more predictive in the mining, in the extraction stage, because that
Right.
process has been done multiple times before.
Right.
You know your expectation, what you need to deliver at each stage. So
Right.
you can be more predictive in the extractive stage.
Right.
I think I agree with you.
Fafa?
Yeah, so I agree with the last speaker. Because when you are exploring, as the word suggests, you are going into something, you are not sure what it is. So as you go forward, you realize that this is not working, you have to retract or drop it and do something else. And when that is done and it comes to the mining stage, then you predict it because you know what works and what doesn't work.
Right. Right. So this is one example of a hybrid approach where the initial phase is uncertain. So you need to use the adaptive approach. And then once you cross that hurdle, then you move to the next phase, use predictive approach. And this also works with manufacturing, right? Product development. The development phase where we want to have the product formula, whether it's food or drug or whatever it is. The initial phase is uncertain. A lot of trials, adjustments, cycles. You go to FDA. I remember my time with Kinafama. You go to FDA every week. You go there, you will do it in your in-house, everything is fine. FDA lab will say, no, it's not fine. You have to go adjust. You are doing stability. You are doing friability, you are doing this, you are doing that. You go round until you have a formula that works. Once that formula is approved, then we are now going to what? Produce it in batches, large quantities. That is predictive. You plan, you scale it up, you follow the SOP, and then you develop or you produce predictive. All right, so that is about. Then we have the second hybrid, which combines both predictive and adaptive approaches from the beginning all the way to the end of the project. It means this project, we are using the two approaches simultaneously in parallel throughout. Normally, we use this approach as a transition strategy, either to transition from predictive to adaptive or from adaptive to predictive. So we are all here. Let's assume that you are all very, experienced using predictive approach. There is now agile concepts, and it is the talk about in town now, agile, adaptive, hybrid. So your organization decided to enroll you in a training. to learn the agile adaptive concepts. Now you are done with the training. Your organization is not going to immediately trust you with an uncertain project or risky project, because the adaptive projects are used to address uncertainty or project with uncertainty. So what will they do? They will ask you to practice the concept on a less risky project, which uses predictive approach. So then you are practicing the adaptive concept on a less risky project in parallel with predictive approach to gain mastery. So as you gain more mastery or more confidence in using the approach, then you'll be reducing the predictive methodologies and then increasing the adaptive methodology until you, take over the whole place using the adaptive concept. So the second approach, which is adaptive and predictive approach used simultaneously, is for transition. It's a transition strategy. Then we have largely predictive with adaptive components. Who can explain the scenario or situations under which this hybrid approach will be useful? Fafa. Under what circumstance will you use this hybrid model? Ernest. The third one.
In real world scenario?
Yes. Or in any example. Now you have this approach, largely predictive approach with adaptive components. Under what circumstance, situation will you opt for this approach?
Okay, so let me try. If you have a product,
okay,
you are producing another version of the product.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of adding something. You're not changing the entire product, but you are adding some few features to enhance it or something. So in that scenario, you could be using, it's more predictive, but you could be adding some adaptive measures to it.
That means that the features you are adding are something you are not too sure about,
because it's new.
There isn't too much clarity around it.
Exactly. It's new. You don't know how it's going to perform. It has to be accepted. A case like, I know this, let me come to maybe Nestor. Is it Nestor who produces the Pepsodent?
I think it's what is the name? Is it Nestle? Unilever.
Unilever, I think so. I think Unilever. They have this the other one, the another product, I think is the reddish one. It's the same company.
Yeah.
But it's the same toothpaste, but they have just added something to it to give us another product, but it's just coming from the same company, and the procedures that they use to produce is the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I've thought about something.
Right.
Yeah, I think the production of mobile phones. I think that so when we're shifting from what we call EAM to the smartphone, so I think the adaptive is what features we have to add, and you can see that every point in time they try to add something new, and so that will be adaptive. So when what they have added is successful, then the predictive approach is used. I think that is an example I want to share.
Yeah. So you mean to say that the template for producing a phone is already there? Maybe the structure, the SOP, the production line for producing maybe a standard phone, which existed, is there. But then if we are introducing a new feature, a new component, and that may require some kind of research or some kind of what do you call it, processes, because it is not clear. We don't know how it will integrate well into the main structure or architecture we have. So then we need to treat that as an adaptive process. Okay.
Yes, yes. You agree with me that there was a time a phone was produced, and when they started the sales, they realized that it was just exploding. So they had to recall
Yeah.
all that. They had to recall all that. So
Right.
I think, yeah, Motorola or one of these companies.
yes.
Yeah.
I see. Jones.
Yes. Okay. So an example could be uh, say opening a branch, right?
Uh-huh.
A branch that maybe say a bank.
Uh-huh.
So if it decides to construct the building, I think construction of the building is more predictive
Uh-huh.
because then that particular edifice will follow a certain standard from concrete upwards. But then if it decides to, within that branch, it wants to offer a certain kind of specialized mobile services to its members, I would think it will have to do a bit of adaptive because then it will need to conduct some sort of research and
Right.
development of those stuff. So I was looking at that blend. Sorry, my examples are usually around the finance side.
Yeah, and it's fine.
Oh,
So it
Jones,
helps
we are enjoying
everybody
it.
to be able to relate what we are doing to their area of practice. And that is perfect. All right. So the building, all the physical or hard components are predictive. But depending on the kind of, service offering that particular branch will offer, and even the demography, the kind of people, the kind of business they do, and all of that, your service offering or even your package and all of that will have to be tailored. And so you need to do a lot of maybe research and then understand the demography and all of that to be able to determine the service offering you're going to offer and all of that. So that become the adaptive component of that project. That's a very brilliant submission.
Yeah, I think it's a good one from Jones. I can link it to our case where we are opening a new pit. We have an existing pit, but we are opening a new pit of operation. We are not sure, so we have to go through the cycle of adaptive approach to now define new variables, even though we have a template on how we are going to mine the new pit.
Right.
But
So, yes, sir.
can we link this thing to what Elon Musk is doing? Like you said, he's not reinventing a vehicle or a car,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
but he is introducing another component, which is the electric vehicles.
Uh-huh.
Already, we know what vehicles should do. The template is already there.
Right.
So the approach to add the electric vehicles, can we link it to be more of adaptive approach?
Yeah, so it is predominantly adaptive, but with predominantly predictive, but with adaptive components.
Okay.
So we can link that to the third one. And the reverse is the fourth one. Largely adaptive, but with predictive components. It means the project largely is uncertain, but just some small aspects of this project, which is clearly defined, which we can use the predictive approach to do, and then integrate it into the larger project. Can we have one or two examples of projects that may follow this approach? largely adaptive, but predictive components.
What comes in mind is in the medical field. I don't know whether I am wrong.
Yes.
So let's take COVID. They had to do a lot of research into which vaccine works. I don't know whether it's a good example. And once you do a lot of sampling, test, because different users will have different reactions to that. And then once it's a go, it goes to just production. I don't know whether it's the first
So
one
I
or
think,
it is
yeah, it's the first one.
the first one. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Papa, any example?
I am thinking. None has come to mind yet.
But at least the concept is clear. I mean, the project is largely going to follow the adaptive process, except that there are some components that is done before. So then you are going to use the predictive process to complete those components and then integrate them into the main project that is following the adaptive process. So that's mainly about the approach, right? So these are the 4 hybrid approaches, right? So when we talk hybrid, then you ask yourself, which of the 4 approaches will it take, right? So that's about the approaches,
So it means that
right?
hello. It means
Yes,
that
sir.
it depends. It depends on what products exactly you are engaging in to choose a particular hybrid.
It depends on the project, the nature of the project.
Okay.
Yes, whether the project is largely well-defined or largely ill-defined, then you can choose the right approach,
All right. Thank you.
including hybrid approach. Now, this is what we call the development approach continuum. So predictive approach is called the far left approach. And then the adaptive approach is called the far right approach. And then between them, you have the hybrid approaches. All right, so predictive, schedule, budget, schedule, scope, and budget focused. So we need to define the schedule based on the scope and then have a budget, okay, into detail. And then the phase-based approach, we are going to execute the project in sequence. We will call it phase-based approach. And it's also called plan-driven. Detailed requirements are defined early in the project lifecycle. And then we get results at the end of the project. The final result is produced and delivered at the end of the project. Predictive approach is typically building a house. In the best case scenario, you do all the work, and then when all the work is completed, you have your house completed and handed over to you. That is the best case scenario. So you move into a completed house when all the work is done. So you get results at the end of the process. In the worst case scenario, maybe where you are being ejected and your money is not enough. So then you do partial finish or partial finishing. Then you move, we call that incremental delivery. We'll talk about that. All right. But we are talking about a situation where, I mean, best case scenario, everybody wants to finish their house completely and then do a housewarming and then move in. So if it's fully predictive, you get results at the end of the project, at the end of the process. Now let's talk of adaptive approach, which is the far right. Work is done in iterations. So the backlogs are executed in short cycles called iterations or time boxes or sprints. As we go along, I'll be elaborating the differences. So work items are small. So we take the backlogs. which are, small aspects of the total product backlog. You pick them one after the other, and then we execute them in small chunks. Once we finish, we will get results. We will make the results available to the customer for feedback, and the feedback will be used to either refine and improve or to drop the backlog. When we are using adaptive approach, this approach is in two folds. We have what we call incremental and iterative approach. So anytime you hear adaptive approach, it is divided into two approaches. So the adaptive is the mother. The children are incremental and iterative approach. You will see that. The incremental approach will deliver results in bits and pieces as the project is ongoing. We don't wait till we finish the entire project before the customer gets something out of the project to put to use. So if you are using incremental approach, you finish the ground floor completely, you hand over. You leave the rest unfinished. Then you finish the second floor complete, you hand over. That's the incremental approach. When we come to adaptive approach, we work with a team called cross-functional team. In a predictive approach, we have what we call project management team or the project team. In adaptive approach, we call them cross-functional team. The cross-functional team are going to be the only people we are going to rely upon to complete the project. And these people must have all the skills required to complete the project. So cross-functional. This team is made up of generalists and specialists. Generalists. And specialists. And generalizing specialists. Generalists are people who have broad area of knowledge. They are not experts in any particular area. Specialists are people who are deep in specialization in a particular domain and they cannot contribute outside their area of expertise. And then generalizing specialists are people who are specialists in a domain and have a broad range of knowledge to contribute on the project outside their area of expertise. A cross-functional team should be made up of generalists, specialists, and generalizing specialists. This team is normally between 3 to 9 members. We will not rely on anyone outside this team. We will talk about the details of that as we go along. Adaptive team will follow rolling wave planning. Rolling wave planning, we plan into detail the work that will be done in the near term and then leave the work that will be done in the future in high-level plan. And once we finish this, then we come and detail this out and leave this. And then to rolling wave. So progressively, we elaborate on the scope, the level of detail as the work progresses. Rolling wave planning or progressive elaboration. Then you realize that we have hybrid between the two extremes, and depending on whether the hybrid is close to predictive or close to adaptive, it will share more of the adaptive or predictive characteristics than the predictive. All right, so this one will share more of predictive characteristics than adaptive. This one will share more of adaptive characteristics than predictive. And all these details, we will talk about them as we go along. Product owner role and all of that, we'll talk about it. Please read about the contents. As we go along, we'll be explaining them and it will be much more clearer. Governance. Jones, what's governance? What is the relevance of governance in our everyday human institution or human, what do you call it, base institution? What is governance and what is the relevance? Ernest.
So,
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my understanding in the area of governance will be more related to regulations.
Okay.
We have every activity has to be conducted or executed within some legal boundaries or regulatory framework to be able
Right.
to meet some acceptance. Yeah.
Okay. Jones?
so governance is more about accountability to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a checker in the performance of projects. That's my understanding when governance is mentioned under project management.
Okay. So we will see that in the hierarchy, you have a project manager, PM, on any project. Under him may be other people in that order. So this becomes the organogram. The project manager, PM, takes responsibility or accountability for anything below him. But there is always a threshold. There is always a limit of his or her authority. If he reaches that limit, who is next in line? All right, maybe programs manager. If the programs manager reaches his limit, who is less in line? Maybe portfolio manager. So this framework for directing and enabling an organization through its established policies, practices, and other relevant documentation, so we call governance. So it shows the hierarchy of authority, the hierarchy of communication, reporting, the decision making, and so on and so forth, is what governance is mostly meant for. So that everybody knows what is expected of them, and then everybody knows when to escalate decisions based on his or her limits and based on his or her capacity, knowledge, exposure, or what do you call it, level of understanding.
Sorry.
Not that, yes.
Okay. So so my thinking probably is different. Is this related to some form of the structure in the team or the team that needs to execute the project, the structure within it?
Yes, so the
in terms
structure,
of maybe reporting panels or responsibilities.
right, right. So at the project level, there's governance. If someone is down here and has to report, that person may have to report to someone here, may not come all the way to the
Okay.
PM.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So that creates a more structured framework for reporting, decision making, so that there is what we call unity of command, and there is some kind of what do you call it, accountability, okay, within the process. Project manager is in charge at this level, but he may be limited to the decision-making power. And once that threshold is reached, he has to escalate to programs manager. And then programs manager will escalate to portfolio manager. We will look at the various nuances as we go on. But mainly, this is what governance. So that's why we say that every project manager, before you start your project, create what we call governance or organizational chart, or what people will call it organogram. We call it project organizational structure.
Okay.
So that's very important. Now, the first part of defining and establishing governance is also defining the structure, the rules, procedures, reporting, ethics, and policies. In most cases, this will be established as part of the organization. In most cases, the organization has a structure, rules, procedures, reporting, policies, and ethics. It may have been established at the organizational level, and that may regulate how things are done within the organization, including how projects are managed. In some organizations, projects are done in silos or functional structure. Functional structure is if you have a project and it's, say, for example, the finance department wanting to have in place some ERP system to streamline the operation, then it is a finance project because it was initiated by the finance or head of finance. That project will happen within the finance department. Automatically, head of finance becomes the project manager. Even if there is a PM in the organization, he or she will report to the functional manager. So mainly, I mean, what the functional manager wants is what gets done. That is what we call the functional structure or the silo system. In some organizations, they have what we call projectized structure. So anytime there is a project, a team is put together from various departments based on their skills to come and work on the project. And then they report to the project manager. So that empowers the project manager. Unlike the functional structure, the project manager has no power. In the projectized structure, the project manager has power. Then comes a concept, because sometimes there are problems with the functional structure. You realize that it delays the organization's project management maturity. So you find that when you go to this organization, which I saw with one organization, okay, project is happening in engineering, project is happening in finance, in HR, marketing, people are activating their product, have their own projects. So project information is dotted across the various departments. There's no consolidation. There's no lesson being drawn from across the projects that are being done in the various departments to consolidate them to improve upon the organization's project management maturity. Again, you have situations where, functional managers are not getting along with, heads of departments, project managers are not getting along, or heads of departments are, asserting their authority, even though sometimes they are not on the right track when it comes to project management. So because of all these issues, then the concept of project management office was birthed. Let's consolidate project management in our organization under one roof. So all projects gets done in this department. And this has been one of the most, game-changing structure in the project management environment or in the project management profession. It helps in efficient resource management. It develops the right development approach, provides training and oversight. It monitors compliance, efficient documentation and document management for us to draw the lessons and then implement such lessons in a way that enhances the project management maturity of the organization. And then it coordinates communication across all projects. If all projects are centralized under one umbrella, these are the benefits. Or these are the functions. This is what this office will do. And if these are being done properly, you can imagine the benefit it will bring to the organization. I know most organizations in this country have offices, project management office. And this is very important for, operational entities who run projects often. All right? Operational entities who run projects often, you need to have a centralized department that handles all your projects to consolidate the gains so that you can refine and improve your processes to be more efficient. It is not a mandatory requirement, but those who use it, who implement it, get the best value. Project Arena has assisted a number of organizations to set up and run very useful PMOs. There are types of PMOs. We have the supportive PMO, controlling PMO, directive PMO, Agile Center of Excellence. The differences mainly is about their capacity or the authority given them. And normally the authority also stems from who is heading the PMO. Of course, if an operational guy has the PMO, his level of authority is low. What they're able to do is to support project managers with best practices, methodologies, templates, case standards. They coach, they mentor, they train, and then they guide project managers. So it serves as a repository of project information for project managers. They don't have power to insist on any compliance or direct project managers on any way to approach projects. Then you may have a PMO headed by someone at the managerial level. He has some level of power from the name controlling. They do all the supportive PMO does. In addition, they insist on compliance. So these PMOs can tell project manager that this project, use adaptive, use predictive, follow these policies, follow this standard. And then they will check by auditing your processes to see if you are complying. If a PMO is headed by a director of the organization, a CEO, or a CEO is a patron, then you have a directive PMO. This PMO is the most powerful PMO. They assign project to project managers, and project managers report to the PMO. So they manage their resources, they coordinate communication across projects. They can terminate even projects in the best interest of the organization. Directive PMO. We have the Agile Center of Excellence, which is also a form of PMOs. Agile, we will come and talk more about Agile and Adaptive. Realize that in the Agile space, the way things happen is different. All right, so it's more of servant leadership. It's more about coaching. It's more about helping build the Agile mindset within the organization, enhance skills and capabilities, and then mentor the sponsors to understand the Agile philosophy. Also mentor the product owners to understand the Agile processes. These are the PMO types. Jones, do you have PMO in your organization?
No, please. But the plan
I think
was
you want to champion
build
it.
up one. The plan was to build up one, but it's always been at the discussion stage, not It's not
Okay.
move beyond the discussion stage. But then the idea is to have one in place. It's been an idea stage. I'll say that.
I see. For most organizations which are project oriented, they may not need PMOs. All right. I mean, because it is a project organization. So everything, the structure and everything is project. All right. So such organization may not really see the need for PMO, but typical operational entities which has multiple projects ongoing, especially dotted across departments, you will benefit extremely from PMOs. So next, when we come tomorrow, we will look at the organizational influences and wrap up with lesson 2 and then start with lesson 3. So tomorrow we will finish with lesson 2 and lesson 3. So that is what you may want to acquaint yourself with before we meet tomorrow. Any question? How has today's lesson been?
Okay, if I may talk.
Right, sure. Papa,
Yeah, I think I joined later, but with what I've heard
right.
today, I'm impressed, and I believe that we can do something better for ourselves. But I'd like to find out if you will send us the PowerPoint projection, so we'll read through before we come tomorrow.
Yes. So you have your learners platform. I think I engage you, and then we will share with you the I will engage you after the class. So yes, you will have
All
it.
right. Okay.
You
Thank you
you
so
will
much.
have yes, you will have it before. You have the recording, and then there's the students or the learners resource. I'll
Okay.
work on
Thank you.
it. Yes. Any
If I
question, Ernest Jones?
if I may, it's been interactive. I've enjoyed our first lesson today. But the quick one, I'm looking at the time.
Mm-hmm.
If it could reschedule it. The initial discussion I had was that it was going to be an in-person, but then you did
Right.
indicate that something has changed. But then the 4 to 7 p.m., I might be losing an hour every time if you maintain this time because from 6 to 7, I have prior engagement. But for
Okay.
today, I had to sacrifice that one. So I was thinking maybe if we can bring it early a bit so that from the 6 to 7, I can have time to undertake that particular activity.
Okay, so as a class, what time do you want us to start? Do you want us to do it in the morning, in the afternoon? I mean, let me know what time works for all of you so that we can adopt it.
I
Jones,
mean,
what time do you propose?
if it's a morning from 9 to, it's a 3-hour class, right?
Yes.
And 9 to 12 is good for me. If it's going to be in the afternoon, I prefer to do a 1 to 4 instead of a 4 to 7.
Okay. Ernest.
Um.
Okay, Sam. What is Fafa?
Yeah. For me, I think this time is okay for me because the mornings I wouldn't work for me. But listening to my brother who says he has a prayer engagement from 6 to 7, I think if we all agree, then we can take it from 3 to 6. But if you, the instructor, feels that you can do 4 to 6 and capture everything, that is fine with me.
Okay, Ernest.
I think the general consensus is we have to make some concession for Jones. Saturdays, for instance, it's a very busy day for the family, But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the 4 to 7 would have been okay. But if we have to concede, it means that if we can push it to maybe 3 to the 6 that he proposed, that would be good. It means that we have to all the family engagement and stuff like that has to happen at least by 3 p.m. Will be available for the class. So
Okay.
yeah.
So that is for the Saturdays, both the Saturdays and then the Sundays,
Yes,
3 to 4.
yes,
Sorry, 3
3 to 6.
to 6.
3 to 6, yeah.
Jones, can you manage that?
I can try the 3 to 6.
Okay.
I can try the 3 to 6. If it
Jones,
doesn't, I'll communicate back to you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
yes,
Okay. John, Ernest?
yes, just on the course delivery, I think it meets my expectation. The speed and the clarity of explanations has been good. The contribution from the other team members has also been enlightening. So it's good so far, so good.
Thank you, gentlemen. We really appreciate your feedback. God willing, I'll see you tomorrow. Ernest, you'll hear from me soon. I will engage you by
Okay.
WhatsApp very soon. Good
Okay,
night.
sir. Good
See you
night.
tomorrow.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.